Well, it is great to be home. And in matters of full disclosure, if you're enjoying this facility here this morning, you're looking at the deciding vote that decided to build this as a member of the Bristol Township School Board way back quite some time ago, about 15 to 16 years ago. There were those then who thought that perhaps we didn't need this facility or they didn't understand the value of what it would bring. And the decision to build it was tough. Very similarly today, there is another opportunity that we all as Pennsylvanians are facing. That we may not know everything that there is to know about it, and the things that we do know or think we know are scary. Well, what the Pennsylvania Chamber has done, and I applaud them and thank them for this, is taking the show on the road. You are in the fifth of what will be 9 different presentations all across the state, not just in the gas-producing area, but all across the state, hoping to shed light on this opportunity. And of course, the opportunity I'm talking about is the development of natural gas from the Marcellus Shale. Now, again, in a further matter of full disclosure, some 4 or 5 years ago, if somebody had asked me who or what is Marcellus Shale, I would have said, didn't he play center field for the Brooklyn Dodgers in '53? But the simple truth is, since that time, I've grown to learn an awful lot about what this industry can and will do for our Commonwealth. You see, it's already transforming Pennsylvania. But we don't see it here in southeastern Pennsylvania or in south central Pennsylvania. It's already responsible for 72,000 new hires. Now, that's not new created jobs, that's new hires, that's new opportunities. And if you're one of the people who's been presented that opportunity, it's as good as creating a new job. There's a potential for hundreds of thousands more of those opportunities. And lest you think that these opportunities are not providing family-sustaining wages on average, they're paying about $74,000 a year. 2 74s, I want you to remember. $74,000, the average wage. And let's debunk something right up front, that these job opportunities are not going to Pennsylvanians. Not true. 74% of those jobs, 3 out of every 4 of those jobs created, are going to Pennsylvanians. Now, while that's a nice start, Governor Corbett and I don't believe that to be enough. We want it to be 4 out of every 4. So one of those recommendations that Gene talked about, and I want to thank in particular personally Gene Barr for his wonderful leadership as well during our Marcellus Shale Advisory Commission work. One of those recommendations is to get serious about workforce development in settings like this technical and vocational setting, to make sure that our workforce in this Commonwealth has the skills necessary to meet the obligations of the industry. Now, while we are all in tough times, Pennsylvania's story is just a little better than our neighbors. And we believe that Marcellus is playing a part in making sure that our unemployment isn't as bad as neighboring states or isn't as bad as the national average. I mentioned earlier, we don't see the benefits here. Do you know what you don't see? What you don't see is Main Street being revitalized. You don't see your neighbor, your friend, your nephew, the guy down the corner, for the first time in 2 or 3 years getting a family-sustaining job. You don't see communities that have had years, decades, 6, 7, 8, 9 decades of no hope and no future suddenly coming back to life. What you don't see is college graduates, young people who were born here, went to school here, but moved away from here, not because they wanted to, but because they had to, because there weren't job opportunities. They're returning back to their hometowns because of this industry. What else, perhaps you may not know, is that with all of that benefit taking place in that region, you're benefiting too. Now, what some might believe, if they picked up any local newspaper in southeast or south central Pennsylvania, they might believe only two things. One, they're poisoning our water, and two, they're not paying anything in taxes. Well, let's address those. In particular, let's talk about taxes. And let's talk about the over $1 billion that this industry has paid directly to the general fund of this state. Money that's gone into this school, money that's gone into the roads that lead to this school, money that goes into our bridges and our state parks. Money that's dispersed all across the state. Where did it come from? It came from the taxes that every corporation pays. You are all business people. You know the story. Pennsylvania has, unfortunately, and we're working on it, but right now Pennsylvania has the most oppressive corporate net income tax in the nation at 9.99%. We are one of the few states in the nation that still charges a capital stock and franchise tax in addition to the corporate net income tax. Although thanks to Governor Corbett, that capital stock and franchise tax is now back on track to be totally eliminated by the year 2014. For startup businesses, we are one of the few states in the nation that still puts a cap on our net loss carry forward. And if all of those taxes weren't enough, and the ones that I didn't mention, payroll tax, withholding tax, sales tax, if all of that wasn't enough, we still have an inheritance tax, a death tax. Too many know the story of the inheriting generation of the family farm, or the inheriting generation of the family business having to sell all or part of that asset to pay a tax. Folks, the question isn't whether or not they are paying taxes. They are. The question needs to be, are they paying enough? Are they paying their fair share? We look at one tax in particular, the severance tax, and we say Pennsylvania is the only state, gas-producing state in the nation that isn't charging a severance tax. I mean, come on, even Texas is charging a severance tax. Well, that's true. But you want to really compare apples to apples, take a look at the overall corporate tax burden in Texas versus Pennsylvania. And what you'll find is, I think, Pennsylvania is charging a fair share. What we have to do is recognize that this is an opportunity to create jobs and expand our economy. And yes, it has national implications. We can be a leader in energy independence. But there are risks that constantly, vigilantly need to be monitored. And that's why Governor Corbett set up his advisory commission on Marcellus Shale. And he asked me to chair it. It was the first time, as much as this issue has been with us, it was the first time that in public, members of the industry, members of environmental groups, members of the administration, and members of local government organizations sat down together in the light of day and discussed the issue in front of the people of Pennsylvania. In July, we submitted our report after 120 days of deliberation. There were 96 separate recommendations. What I think is perhaps most telling is that more than half of those recommendations were in the area of public health, public safety, and environmental protection. On October 3rd, Governor Corbett announced his package, which implemented nearly all of the recommendations that were unanimously adopted back in July. Governor Corbett has put forward a responsible plan for the development of natural gas in this Commonwealth. And at the end of the day, perhaps the overarching message is a simple math equation, very simple. E equals J. energy equals jobs in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But we have to do it safely, and we have to do it right. And what did we do? What did we recommend in protecting our health and our safety and our environment? Well, among other things, we substantially increased setbacks from water supplies. We increased penalties and fines for ne'er-do-wells. We worked to strike a balance between the great opportunity of economic development and job creation and the risks that come from this endeavor. And that really is the challenge for all of us. Let it be understood that we all want clean air, and we all want clean water, and we all want to be good stewards of the environment, and we all want to protect the public's health, and we all want to protect the public safety, and we all want to protect the public's welfare. And one of the best ways we can protect the public's welfare is by allowing the private sector to create family-sustaining jobs. Our challenge is further to recruit companies to use the natural gas here in this state as well. It's not enough that it's just found here. We've got to put it to use here. We have to make sure that Pennsylvania companies are being provided the opportunity to do business in this industry. And let me tell you, as much as we think that government will set a table and the private industry will figure out a way to be part of this opportunity, they're already doing it. Companies far outside of the gas-producing region. And let me tell you one story in particular. About 4 months ago, I went up to the Poconos, and I went to a company that's about 100 years old called Weiler Brush. It's not really their name anymore, but they still call it Weiler Brush. It's Weiler Industries now. But Weiler produces, as the way I call it, their name would suggest, industrial brushes. They sent their engineers into the field and went to pad sites to understand better what the needs of the industry were. And they recognized that if they ever so subtly changed the way in which one of their brushes could adapt, then that would be more helpful to the industry. And indeed, they patented it, and it's doing wonderful business. Their business is up 20 to 30% because of that one product. But it doesn't stop with Weiler, because the increased need for Weiler has them needing more material. Along comes Mount Joy Wire Company in Lancaster County, far outside of the gas-producing area. Their business is up 20 to 30%. Then there's a cardboard company in Reading. What's a cardboard company got to do with this? How do you ship the brushes? You got to put them in boxes and send them. And it goes on and on and on. Here in the Southeast, companies like Aqua in Bryn Mawr and GES in Exton are seeing opportunities as a result of this industry. Pennsylvania has a challenge, yes, to continue to be good stewards of Penn's woods. But we also have an obligation, and that was the core of the work of the Marcellus Shale Advisory Commission. We have an obligation to the truth. We have an obligation to make sure that we put terms like Rust Belt and brain drain onto the ash heap of history for this state. That we make Pennsylvania the keystone for energy independence. That we improve our environment by turning away from other fossil fuels and burning clean natural gas, which, by the way, burns at about 40 to 50% cleaner than other fossil fuels. And of course, our major challenge, maximize the opportunity, but forever be vigilant and minimize the risks. We can strike that balance. It can be done. We just have to have the determination in order to do it. And it's through discussions like you're having today and the tough questions that are being answered I hope at least they're being answered. It's good that they're being asked, and I hope that they're being answered. That we can get to a point in which we all understand this opportunity and we all understand the risks a little better. With that, thank you very much for your kind attention. It's good to be home, and I look forward to seeing you all again.